Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Onward to Victory, run by Giant Killer, your one-stop shop for all things George Mason basketball. I'm Joe Szymanski. He's Palmer Johnson. Palmer, the Patriots are where we wanted them to be. George Mason is 5-0 heading into the Daytona Beach Sunshine Slam mid-season tournament. Palmer, we've had 3 games the Patriots played since we last talked between each other. Let's start off with the least exciting one. Let's talk about the game against Catawba, a D2 school that played a style of basketball that did give Mason a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, that one was a little too exciting early on because Mason was losing in the 20s and it was close in the 40s. And as of course is what always happens and then they kind of pull away.
Yeah.
I think Catawba just kind of played a style where it was like they're going to play all out for those first 20 minutes and just see what happens, which is what you should do when the team is way more talented than you. Uh, it does make me worry what happens when a really good team does that to Mason. That because those were D2 basketball players. What happens when it's a good A10 team?
Absolutely. Now, of course, the style that Palmer is talking about is a heavy pressing, and we're not just talking one player press. We are talking a full 2-3 player press that Mason struggled with a deal. Certainly a game that you wish that Braden O'Connor, who was, of course, still expected to be out until early January at this point, one of those games that you kind of wish he was there for, if not to just kind of calm the team down when he's in there. And, of course, Mason ended up actually was missing, again, 3 players for this game. Still no Masai Troutman, still no Fat Hill for this game. So Mason, even for against a D2 team, when you got a team that presses you, makes you run like that, that can be a challenge. But, of course, Mason ends up winning by 24. It doesn't matter to the metrics. Most importantly, though, George Mason doesn't get embarrassed. I like not being embarrassed, Palmer. I think we can both say that. In the end, the name of the game was Jahari Long, actually, Palmer. Only 4 for 7 from the field, but 16 of 17 from the free throw line this game. They were just not able to handle Long when he was able to get by him and get to the basket. Just not able to handle them there. Some big minutes from Stas Sivka, who played the vast majority of the second half because Dola Adebayo did not have a good game. He did not handle the press well. He was sat. Palmer, there was a lot of concerns about Dola after this game.
Yeah, I never looked at how bad the game was. He has a 0 offensive rating in his 10 minutes, which is I don't think I've ever seen that. Uh, yeah, luckily, he did bad against the press. Luckily, we didn't really expect him to do super well. Just not this bad.
Yeah. No, it was certainly something that, if that shows up later in the season, we can maybe point to. But I think certainly this is someone that I think Tony Skinn wanted to play. This is a team that I think Tony Skinn wanted to play for this reason. I mean, it's not like Catawba is a joke like D3 school or even a joke D2 school. This is one of the better D2 schools in the country of recent, very, very recent history of strong success at the Division II level. And certainly I think the fact that they play this pressing style, we've seen this from Tony before, when having to play the non-D1 opponents, I think both last year as well, is that he wants them to kind of do something that he feels Mason will be weak at. Obviously, he brought in a team that presses very hard, and we saw a lot of the weakness there, Palmer. We saw a lot of the weakness. It can be concerning, but in the end, Mason holds on. We're going to go over that because let's get to the games that count towards the metrics, Palmer. Next up, it was that Saturday. Mason, it was still their only Saturday game of the year so far, taking on New Hampshire, one of the lowest rated teams in the entire nation. We're just not talking about in their conference, but in the entire nation. But Palmer, it was never really a game that seemed in doubt for Mason ever. But it was cold shooting that kind of kept this game at seemingly closer than it maybe should have been.
Yeah, Mason shot 2 for 20 from 3, and uh, Malik Presley was one of the threes, which was not.
That's not usual. That's not a usual thing. We should not be used to that.
You don't want Malik Presley to be half of your threes in a game. But yeah, I think New Hampshire could have stayed in it a little more if Bilal Shakery wasn't just playing them out of the game. Uh, that was their forward who just decided sometimes it was time to shoot and missed a lot. But yeah, it was a game that where you felt you wish Mason won by more, but you're happy that like well at least the defense really stood strong, you
Yes.
know, and didn't make the game a challenge because the first half they were only at 4 at half, but then the defense really locked in. It was like, yeah, it was never a game in the second half.
Yeah, only 44 points allowed there by Mason this game. New Hampshire only shot 36.5% from two for this game, Palmer. I mean, obviously the big one, the re-addition of Masai Troutman into the lineup. He got, I believe, just a hair under 30 minutes off the bench. Yeah, 26 minutes for Troutman off the bench. It was very clear and obvious, I think, Palmer, how much it helped to have some of that wing depth back. Someone who I think Tony Skinn trusted defensively, who could run the system. I think compared to some of the maybe what some would call defensive struggles to a certain extent, seem to kind of just go away when you get a player back like Masai Troutman, who is a veteran player, who understands, I think, the defensive systems that Tony Skinn wants to run. Seem very critical for Mason to get, even for this New Hampshire game, just I think defensively on the other side of the ball, for Mason to get Masai Troutman back.
Yeah, I mean, rim defense is as much about efficiency as it is about frequency, and that's just one more defender that is not going to let a guy go past him. So Mason was holding strong at the rim in that game, both on an efficiency basis and the volume basis, which is a really good because a shot at the rim is one of the is the best shot in basketball. So if you can let that happen less, that's great.
Yeah, usually good things are going to happen when you're not letting your opponent shoot at the rim. Usually that means things are working. Other shutouts, though, we talked about Dolo really struggling in the Catawba game. He got benched, but he was critical in that second half for George Mason. Really helped the offense explode there at the end, kind of expand the lead. He ended up with the most points, 14 points, 8 boards, 2 assists, and 3 blocks. It seemed like kind of a little bit of a get-right half for Adebayo, or at the very least a confidence booster for him.
Yeah, and that's what you really want. He had 7 stocks in that game, which is a lot. But yeah, I mean, yes, you just want after a bad game, don't care who it's against. You just want your player who you're really counting on to be pretty good. You want him to get back and get confident again.
Absolutely, and it seemed like he certainly did from that, especially on what was a poor shooting night for George Mason. Like you said, Palmer, 2 for 20 from 3. One of those low variance games that sometimes comes for a team every once in a couple, what feels like once every 2 months during the basketball season. You'd rather take it against the team that was ranked 361 on KenPom than a certain school from Richmond or St. Louis. You'd much rather it happen now than in those games. But, it was a nice win for Mason. But the big one for this week, what's been the metric mover so far of the last 3 games, obviously, George Mason's win earlier this week on Tuesday night against Jacksonville. Mason came into the game 14-point favorites. The end of the night with a 22-point win over the Dolphins. Technically, the first, it was their campus Sunshine Slam game. Mason with the win here over Jacksonville. Big games all around. Corey Mincy got back to 3. Mason, after going 2 for 20, shot 50% from 3 on Tuesday night, 7 for 14, 62% from the field. It could have been much worse, quite honestly, if Mason had been able to consistently hit 3 throws, 22 of 35 from the line that night. But the big story of the night offensively, Masai Troutman with the big 20 points, 5 boards, and assist. Huge night for Troutman. Is he going to be this year's Jared Billups, in which he's a guy who's going to play 30 minutes off the bench, but he's going to be one of the best players on this team?
So far, it seems like it. Skinn last year, a couple games of the season, Billups gets hurt, comes back, and like, this lineup we had with Billups on the bench looked actually pretty good. And seems like they're doing the same thing with Presley sliding in. I mean, however it gets done, it gets done. You'll take 20 points off, efficient 20 points off the bench. He's getting to the line a ton, which is always something you'd love to see.
And shot efficiently from the line as well. 10 for 11 from the line as well on a Tuesday night. Other statistical notes, Emmanuel Conga, career high 9 points. 7 of his points came from the line, Palmer. The freshman, he's just such a big body presence. He's got a raw offensive game, but he's someone who seems like if he's in the game and if he's in a good position, he's going to get fouled a lot. Is the hope that his free throw shooting, if you take 70% from the line, it feels like you take that from your freshman rookie big man over a whole season.
Absolutely. Fortunately, the rest of his free throws in the other games weren't as good, but let's hope he's just kind of getting used to, I don't know, maybe shooting an eagle bank. I don't know. I mean, he needs to figure out how to shoot from the line because his free throw rate right now is 250, so 2.5 times as many shots from the line as compared to like his normal shots. 8.3 fouls run per 40 minutes. And of course, he's also committing 8.3, but
that's one of those things that you kind of expect a young big to do, though, correct? Like that.
And I think he also knows like there's 2 other centers on this team, so I can play, maybe get a dumb foul or 2 because if I foul out, maybe the other teams are also probably fouling out, and I'm gonna guess that you have more big men on our team than yours.
Yep. That's true, and that big man depth has been crucial for George Mason so far this year. The fact is we've got 3 guys who can play the 5 spot that Tony Skinn clearly trusts in Riley Allenspach, Nick Ellington, and Emmanuel Kanga. I mean, that seems like such a huge deal for depth, especially as we continue to get deeper into the season, Palmer.
Oh, for sure. And Ellington had his somewhat of a breakout game. Mason had 7 blocks as a team, and all 7 were Ellington. And I believe 3 or 4 of those were like one-on-one, pure
just straight up
block, those are hard to get. Those are really like, I'm not going to say like help defense blocks are easy, but it's kind of one of those things where like the offense can somewhat run into those. Basically, you can kind of take advantage of a guy deciding he's shooting. He's not massive. He's got long arms, and I mean that's amazing to have because you get more favorable rebounds on those just because the ball isn't. You're not really out of position. You're kind of in a normal position covering your man. So I feel like you get more rebounds there.
Yeah, certainly a huge game from Ellington defensively. Just overall, I think arguably the best performance from Mason through their first 5 games. I think all around. I think obviously you look at Winthrop. That was obviously a very good game offensively, if not so defensively. A couple of very good defensive games this year from Mason that I think were not as efficient offensively that Tony Skinn would like. But certainly, I think overall the best performance from George Mason this season, this past Tuesday. A very big confidence booster, Palmer, because now we head into Daytona Beach for real, Ohio on Monday night, and then one of either Loyola Marymount or FAU, that's Florida Atlantic. You might remember them from that, I believe, that Final Four run a couple years ago. Obviously, none of those guys, even the coach, are there anymore. But certainly still a solid program out of the American now. I believe they've left the CUSA for the American. But certainly Palmer, the Patriots can't overlook Ohio. But I think this has turned into a game maybe a little bit this season. It seems to be a down year for the Bobcats, who've been generally one of the more consistent programs in the MAC, the regular MAC, not the MAC, but just the MAC, the Mid-Atlantic, the Midwestern, not the Midwestern Conference. Mid-Atlantic Conference. Mid-American Conference, yes. Mid-American Conference, based out of Ohio there, the Mid-American Conference. The Bobcats have been generally pretty consistent, but as we've seen so far, numbers don't lie, Palmer. This is a team that's struggling to start the season.
Yeah, it's been bad. So 2 or 3 games, you get blown out by St. Mary's in Louisville. That's fine. Like that's gonna happen. But a 4-point loss to Arkansas State is like, okay, that's a little.
At home, when they were up, by the way, at home, I think we want to make that qualification there. They were up 7 at the half against Arkansas State at home and lost.
Yeah, not good.
Not
And
good.
then they beat Illinois State by 4. That's good. But then they host Bethune-Cookman, who was sub 200, and now they are no longer sub 200 because they beat Ohio. And so
Who is now
Bethune-Cookman was in the
exactly 200.
exactly 200. So Bethune-Cookman was so. If you looked at the campus, there's like the MTE split in the campus and like the actual
Yeah.
event. The 4 teams that were on the road for the campus event were all pretty bad, and now Ohio is in that group with them. So that's really bad. This was supposed to be a game that could be Q3, but and now it's gonna be probably Q4, which is
Yeah,
gonna stink.
barring some turnaround from the Bobcats, it is a Q4 game. It is certainly now a game that Mason should win. It's the type of game that Mason has won. Obviously, we're moving away from Eagle Bank and going to a neutral court. But I think through the Tony Skinn era, this is also, I think, undeniably the worst team we've played on a neutral court so far. And I'd actually argue the worst team we've played on a neutral court in quite a while here. Certainly, but we've seen it before from the Kim English era and from the Dave Paulson era that neutral site games can be difficult. First time away from home for a lot of teams of Mason's caliber. They can be difficult. Ohio, in particular, has a very talented guard by the name of Jackson Pavlovitz, 6'2" senior, very talented. Gets to the line a lot, shooting 58% from 2, as well as 47% from 3 to start the season. But he's only taking 17 shots from 3. Doesn't take a whole lot of them. Really, their only threat from deep, though. There's no one else who has shot more than 10 threes, who is shooting better than 29% right now, though, for the Bobcats, which kind of just suggests how they've been struggling this year. They also just don't defend very well. This has not been a very good defensive team so far this year. They also are only generally good at shooting twos, which is just never a good thing for a basketball team playing George Mason, I feel like, over the last couple of years, because then the Patriot pressure could just kind of lock onto that thing. If anything, you actually kind of saw that from Jacksonville. From the Jacksonville game, who are just very consistently a solid three-point shooting team and not that great elsewhere else. And George Mason kind of locked down on Jacksonville's 2 shooters, and you saw how that game went. So, Ohio, you do not want to look past them. You never knew, especially on a neutral court. But that is a game that Mason Nation should expect the Patriots to go in and win. It will be game 2, though, that will be more difficult, Palmer. You've got, like I said, a solid Florida Atlantic team. That's a top 130 KenPom team. But the big one, and I think if you want to talk about playing the metrics game, the one that George Mason is going to want, you have a Loyola Marymount team that is on the cusp of top 100 KenPom, has had an impressive start to the season. They are currently 6-0. And Palmer, this is a tall, lanky team that plays defense. This would be, I think, undeniably the Patriots' second hardest game of the year, behind away at Virginia Tech and Blacksburg coming up in early December. If Mason does indeed end up drawing Loyola Marymount for their second game.
Yeah, I mean this is a big team. I'm a bit worried. I'm not super worried, but I mean, they do have Rokas Yoshis. Important.
Rokas Yokas. Oh,
Yeah.
good old Rokas. Was he at like UCF or something
He
like
was at
that last
UCF.
year?
He was
That
at
was one
UCF
of those weird ones.
after being not good at LaSalle. He went to UCF, which checks out.
Yeah, that's the sign of stable and healthy college basketball. But I mean, let's be clear. This is though a strong-looking Marymount team. They don't shoot free throws very well, which is good news for the Patriots. But they've been one of the best three-point shooting teams so far in the country to start the year. They're also very, very good at defending the 2. They've won some solid games over a strong Troy team at home by 11 points. They've beaten. They just came on this past Monday. They knocked off UC Santa Barbara on the road, another strong team a solid team out of the Big West on the road in OT. This is a team that's going to be tough for Mason to defeat. Obviously, they've got a couple of guys who are just absolutely cranking it from 3, in Rodney Brown and Myron Amy. We're both shooting over 45% from the three-point line, from behind the three-point line right now. Those are 2 guys that Mason is going to have to focus on while also trying to get into their offense. Again, you don't want to look ahead. You don't want to look past Ohio, but certainly Mason is having the type of start that will have people talking about an at-large bid. Whenever you start the season undefeated and Winthrop is not a bad team. That's looking like a more and more solid win every week. They seem to be one of the favorites out of the Big South. And Mason has handled business. That's a fact of life. They've handled business against their other teams that they've played this year. All of the rest of those games have been won by double digits like they should have been. And so right now you have people talking about Mason, but we have the metrics game. Loyola Marymount is very close to potentially being a Q2 neutral game. Those are the type of games you want to see on the schedule, and those are the type of games that you want to win, Palmer. Talk about this Mason team. It looks like a team that can compete for a tournament once again so far through these first 5 games.
Yeah, if the defense is real, and then because the defense is top 50 right now. Yeah, they're 40th right now, and I think it's better with O'Connor coming back. I don't know when he comes back. I don't know if he comes back, but it's 40th without O'Connor. And then
we want to point out 40th of that Fat Hill too, who Tony
yes.
Skinn has talked up about defensively. That's not necessarily what we expected coming into the season, but Tony Skinn has talked up Fat Hill on the defensive side of the ball as another one of these more aggressive defenders that Tony's brought in this year.
Yeah, I mean, Fat Hill's super athletic. You have to be good on the defensive end if you're that athletic. Otherwise, it's kind of concerning. See, you're missing two people who should be plus defenders at the guard position. It's when it was like, man, I really wish Fat Hill was coming back for the.
And he might. He could.
He could. The brace is off. I believe the brace is off.
The brace is off, and he's been shown at practice. I mean, and the report that they gave to the media was that by the end of the month, which that is this month, November. Does that mean these two? I think the question is we do not know if that means these 2 games in Daytona Beach, or does that remain the game on the Saturday after Thanksgiving against James Madison? That kind of seems to be the question. I think that obviously we're not going to get answered until we see the line. So we look at the bench for Monday's game against Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, personally, if you're bringing a guy back from injury, a back-to-back is not a good time to bring him back. Kind of like you don't want a guy to play no basketball for a long time, then play 2 games back-to-back. That's not generally a good idea. Now, of course, it could be worth it. I don't know. I personally think he comes back for the James Madison game. And I think I'm totally okay with that. I totally understand like weighing the risk of he could play, but maybe not. Maybe let's not play him 70 minutes in 48 hours, or 24 hours, I guess.
That's certainly part of the question here. But let's talk about that James Madison game a little bit. I think there was a lot of hope that the Dukes were at least going to be a Q3 game for the Patriots this season. It's not looking like the case. The Dukes under Preston Spradlin, a tough start to the season themselves. Obviously, they go to Akron earlier in the season. Akron, probably one of the top mid-major teams in the country. They're top 80 right now in the nation, just above Mason. That's a strong team. They lost by 14-2. But then you saw some of the early season concerns in their next 2 games. Against non-D1 Washington and Lee, they only win by 14 points. And then they bring in Coppin State to their home arena, and one of the worst teams in all of the NCAA. And once again, they only win by 14 points. Then they go on the road to Longwood and lose by 10. They go on the road to Long Island. They lose by 9. Now, they do have a win over Towson at home on Tuesday night. That kind of maybe stabilizing their season. But certainly this is a team that looks kind of very similar to Ohio, but to an even more extent, very, very questionable on the defensive side of the ball.
Questionable is a very nice way of putting it. So they let up 70 points in 70 possessions to Coppin State, who has the second.
That's worse than I thought it was.
Second worst offense. Yeah, so 1 point per possession against the second worst offense in the country is really, really bad. Because it's still technically above average, but not against the worst offense in the country or second worst offense in the country. Now, on the right side for them, they're hitting a lot of threes. But kind of double-edged sword. That's kind of all they're doing. They're kind of only hitting threes because they're not getting rebounds. They're not getting the foul line, and
the interior offense does not seem to be there this year.
Yeah, and I mean they have a lot of guys shooting really well, and it's just You know what happens if they don't shoot well? And in the case of these guys, kind of having some of them are having some outlier seasons like this. Like Justin McBride is shooting 56% from three, shot 24% last year. Uh, Bradley Douglas shooting 40%, shot 29% last year. It's kind of like, they're not doing well, and it's kind of a big house of cards that could come falling down real fast if the offense. I mean, the offense is 109th. If that drops to 150, then they're looking real bad.
It's
And
looking
also, yeah,
questionable.
yeah. I thought this team had Ike Cornish, and he's no longer here.
Oh, well, all right.
Don't know what happened there. He was on the Torvik page,
Well,
but
no,
he's
he's
not.
he's on the. He just hasn't played. I wonder if he's hurt or something because he's on the Ken Palm. If you click Dukes on Ken Palm,
The roster
he's
page.
there. But I guess he just hasn't played. So
Yeah, I haven't heard anything about his about an injury, but
yeah, you
it's
never
been a
know.
rough go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
we're not going to
never
speculate.
know. Yeah, not going to speculate about someone who's not on the team. But anyway, Palmer, it really does seem like that Tuesday game in Daytona is really the one to watch for Mason. It might be undeniable. It might be their second best game on the schedule, especially considering it's on neutral grounds. That will be the one to watch. We will likely not be back until that's why we're covering the next three, similar to the last episode, because we will not likely shoot because of the Thanksgiving holiday. Obviously, in between the Monday, Tuesday set and then the Saturday game. Palmer, I know I'm not going to Daytona. I've thought about it. I don't think you're going to Daytona either. I don't believe so. I 50-50 on being there for Madison. Palmer, I believe, should be there for James Madison at a home game. But right now, George Mason, the vibes are good. Come on, Palmer. We're 5-0. The vibes are good. Tied for the best start in the season. Mason looking to break that record for best start to a season on Monday. I believe they will on Monday against Ohio. Then it will really be interesting to see who that opponent is on Tuesday. Is it going to be Florida Atlantic? Is it going to be Loyola Marymount? How will that affect the metrics for George Mason? We will see. This is a team that looks hungry, that looks like they want to build off of what the last year's group did. I'm looking to finally get Mason back to the NCAA tournament. You're going to want to follow along all season right here on the Onward to Victory podcast with me, Joe Szymanski, and my partner and friend, Palmer Johnson. Folks, thank you for listening or watching wherever you may be. You're going to want to stick with us right here on Onward to Victory by Giant Killer. Have a great day, folks.